Hello and welcome to another edition of Talking Devils. My name is Dave Murphy, your host. I'm joined this week by legendary Manchester United winger and FA Cup winner, Mr. Gordon Hill, drinking a big glass of wine there. Or is it Ribena?
It is Ribena, David. And good morning, Wayne, and good morning, David. Yes, it's Ribena. I'm getting ready to do my coaching sessions today, so I can take it out on the players.
You can build up on your vitamin C. I'm here with a good old traditional cup of Irish tea that I get sent over. So I know you're on the same time zone as me, Gordon. So I was a little bit concerned that there was a pint of wine at 10 o'clock in the morning. But glad to see you, Ribena.
No. Football may have driven me close, but not that at 10 o'clock in the morning. You know, I get busy looking at it.
Maybe this week, though. Also joining us this week is Manchester United author, Mr. Wayne Barton, someone that is well connected within the world of Manchester United. So we wanted to get him onto this. Podcast with Gordon just to go over what an absolute mess we seem to have found ourselves in again at Manchester United. Seems to be a common theme over the past 8 years or so since Sir Alex retired. And David Gill left the club as well. So I'm going to get right into it straight away. Overnight, as myself and Gordon were catching up on our beauty sleep, Manchester United announced that they have departed ways with the legendary Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. As usual, we've stumbled into this with looks like no plan. It's also been announced that Michael Carrick and Darren Fletcher will take charge, will be interim managers until we find an interim manager for the interim manager, which is just, it's like a scene from the US office. It's comical. It's depressing. Wayne, I'm going to come to you first. I don't even know what question to start with because there's a million questions out there, but maybe I'll just start with, how do you see this shit show rolling on?
Oh, Dave, there's so many things I'm unhappy with. And last night, me and Gordon did a show reacting to the news that was breaking that he was going to lose the job. And I think the general consensus was, the time has come. The time's been there for a couple of weeks. We've sort of felt it coming. But honestly, I mean, today, I'm smiling, but I'm absolutely devastated. I don't really know where to begin, but I'm going to go on a bit of a rant to start off with. And I'm sorry, guys, but, they've had 4 weeks to make a plan since Liverpool. So they either haven't found the right man or the right man's not coming in until the summer. Or they don't want to pay mid-season to get someone out of the contract and they don't want to do it before January because that'll mean there's more money to be spent in the transfer window. They not only don't have a successor anywhere planned in their strategy, they don't have an interim successor planned anywhere in the strategy. Not only is that the case, but they told this to the entire world at the same time they announced they were sacking the manager, who is a club legend. So they've said, we don't have a plan. We don't know what the plan's going to be. But what our immediate action is that we're going to go forward without a football manager. And they even said in the statement that it's with reluctance that he was going. Now, not only is all that the case, but the entire coaching staff has been left in place because, not having staff, that would be incompetent. So the entire structure remains as it is from the top to the bottom of the club. That's the Glazers holding Solskjaer accountable when there are so many other issues. I really can't begin to tell you how appalled I'm so heartbroken as a United fan that this is what we've experienced today. And then 10 minutes ago, before we come on air, the news is released that they've made him do an interview on club media. And I've watched it and I'm gutted, heartbroken all over again. Yes, I know he will have wanted to do it because he's a class act. But the club have got to step in somewhere. Just issue a statement from him. Issue the video at a later date. Don't do it today. He had tears in his eyes. You could tell that he's been crying. And it's gutting to watch that as a United fan. And they're using it as an engagement. They're kicking him when he's down. They're leaving the comments on the videos, on the tweets, knowing the dog's abuse is likely to get. just so that they can boast about the interaction that they got that on that tweet on the next quarterly earnings call. It's disgusting. It's obscene. I'm utterly, utterly bewildered by what I've experienced today. It's one of the worst days I've ever experienced as a Manchester United fan. It's worse than any result that I've ever watched, worse than any game, any performance. This conduct today, I'm so devastated. It's one of the worst days I've ever experienced as a United fan. I'm so gutted, Dave, and I wanted to put that rant in to kick off because I have to be completely honest and completely blunt about it. It's just so bad, and I'm getting upset thinking about it. But I just leave it to you guys now. But I just want to say my piece.
Well, I mean, I want to hit on the point about the video. I thought things were bad up until this morning, and how we dragged this out. I'm a massive Solskjaer fan, be the player or the man or the manager. I wanted him to succeed more than anyone. I love the guy. He gave me the greatest night of my footballing life back in '99 in the new camp. He's always been a legend in this club. Now, you can't separate the player from the manager, but it does at points it does have to cross over. What they did today with that video was nothing short of shameful and embarrassing. Absolutely shameful. To get him to do an interview right after being sacked is just their way of trying to protect themselves against the fans, because it made it look like, and we're not dumb, it made it look like that Ole was leaving on his own accord and that they had no plan. The fact that they have no plan, I think, contributed to the decision to make him do that video. I don't believe for 1 minute he wanted to do that video. I think it was forced upon him, and he did it because that's just the way he is. Gordon, a lot of strong words from Wayne there, and then obviously you and I seen the video this morning with Ole saying that
Sorry, Dave, I haven't seen the video.
So basically, the video is just him, saying it's nonsense. I mean, Gordon, you were a manager, of many clubs, and if you had just even left with mutual agreement, and the club came to you and said, "Hey, do you want to do a video, Gordon?" I mean, what would your reaction be to that?
Sorry, no thanks.
We can beep all your words out. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even swear about it. I wouldn't even lower myself to that level. I mean, if someone said you're going to do, the only thing I can suggest is that they've got things they hold against managers, like their severance pay, and you might not get it, and all this, which we don't know about. We can't speculate because we don't know what the situation is with it. So, that they're covering their asses, number one, right? Number two. Number two is that they've got these interim managers, so-called bits and pieces, when the coaching staff should go. I thought about it. I've looked at it. I've looked at what their backgrounds are, because don't forget, I'm a professional coach. I've looked at their profession. I looked at what they've given the game, and nothing but relegation. Now, if you're going to employ people like that, even though, and we've stated it, and I'll state it, even though I'm, much older than them, is that just because she was a good player or a great player doesn't mean to say you're going to be a great manager. And we've seen this in so many cases, that the people that you don't really expect come through and do very well. Players that haven't played, people that haven't played the game have come in. But it's very, very shameful for somebody to put it on to somebody like Ole. The problem being with Ole is he's Mr. Nice Guy. That's the bottom line. It's strange. They give him all the tools to make it successful. So on that part, we can't argue that point. They give him all the tools. He's got one of the best top clubs in the world. It's certainly much bigger than Mold or Cardiff City. But what it comes down to, was he able to manage the players, international, the top so-called stars that he's got? And it comes down to, and I spoke to Wayne about it last night, he's their friend and not their boss. He doesn't know when to turn off from being that player friend to being that manager and being very, very vicious and callous. And to me, this doesn't surprise me. This supporters are going to be upset. Supporters are going to be jumping for joy. But who's to guarantee the next person comes in doesn't do the same? And where do you say
I'd just like to know who the next person is going to be. That's the thing. Do you know what I mean? If they said this morning,
yeah, but it doesn't matter who comes in, Wayne.
It's nobody. That's
it doesn't matter what you say, what I say, what Dave says. The next person that comes in is going to have their blessing. And so they're going to be given another shed full of money to try and get it. This is a case of trying to buy your way to success. And we know you can't buy your success. You can't buy success. It comes from being developed. It comes from people that have been there, seen it, done it, and passing their experience on to younger players that are trying and able to produce the type of football that this top club has served and done and delivered. We can't turn back the clocks. I'm not turning back the clock. I'm looking forward to saying, well, okay, fine. If, like I said yesterday, if we start putting results together with a new guy, everybody's going to be hunky-dory. Everybody's going to be happy as a pig in muck. What's hurting it is the results, Wayne. Nothing more. Results. Results tell you if you're going to get the sacks. Results tell you if you're going to be patted on the back. The results tell you if you're going to get a knife in your back and you don't know it. We've seen it in football so many times. You can win the FA Cup like Chelsea did, and the manager gets the sack 3 weeks later. It's not our choice. We can sit here talking and being heartbroken, but basically Man United is not a supporters club anymore. It's the Glaziers club. And we can say what we like, but I keep telling it's we can't have a go. It's the blind leading the blind.
I just want to. I'm with you, Gordon. I am. And I think what as we spoke last night.
Mm-hmm.
I know Dave will want to get his point in on this because I know that you haven't really done that so far on this, but it's not so much. I mean, I've accepted that the change of manager was due. It was coming, and we like the reasons for why. I understand that. I just think there are ways and means about going about it, and I just think they have no succession plan. And not only do they not have one, I mean, they're used to lying to us. Lie to us and say that you've got one. Don't put out a statement admitting to the world that you don't have one.
We haven't got one.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for them, and it's embarrassing for us.
There has nothing been on the drawing board for months, Wayne.
Yeah. That's the thing.
It's what it's been is, well, he may get us out of it. He may get us out of it. He may. But the bottom line is, and I don't think people understand, it's all about results. And
it's definitely a results-driven business. I think we all know that. But I just wanted to chime in here a little bit and just make my own assessment of all this and get your opinion on it, Gordon and Wayne. I think we all know. I think we can all agree on this call that Ole wasn't up to the job. He wasn't up to the task. Gordon, you had mentioned earlier on that he was given all the tools that he wanted, bar the defensive midfielder. He was given a very, very good team. We all can see that. I personally believe he hit a brick wall. I think the players that he has now need a different coach to actually coach them at that level. Now, that said, I think, and we've known this for a while now, and I think we've all had this, hope that he would turn things around. But I think it's very obvious. And I said this in the summer, when he got to Sancho and the Varane and Ronaldo, I thought, okay, there is no more excuses now. He has to go and win something. Some of his decisions, some of his selections have baffled me throughout the year. They really have. So his persistence with Fred, his persistence at home with Fred and McTominay has baffled me. I think we can all agree, and most Manchester United fans will agree, he's not at a level to coach these players. I'm 100% behind that. But here's where I'm baffled and I don't understand. There is no succession plan. 4 weeks ago, we got absolutely smashed by Liverpool 5-0. That's when the succession plan comes in. And what I said at the time was, and me and Wayne talked about this, and I talked to former Manchester United centre-back Scott Wootton about this on numerous occasions, is that If we're going to sack Solskjaer, which we knew was coming, we need to be able to make a good plan. And for me, that plan was, if we have to wait until the summer to get someone like Ten Hag or Luis Enrique or someone that we feel will take this club forward, that's what we should do. But what they've actually done is they've made a mockery of even that. They've come out and they said, we're going to put someone in place now till we find someone to put in place until the summer. And that just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's a shambles. You know, there's League of Ireland teams that are better set up than this, and they're part-time. They work in, you know, Woodies and Tesco's throughout the week. It's mind-blowing that a club as big as Manchester United, which people can argue is the biggest in the world, have no plan after what has been coming for 4 weeks. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Gordon, I want to jump on to that plan.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're a professional coach. You've been a professional manager for many years. Your head's on the chopping block, okay? Are you expecting you to just go? Are you expecting your whole team to go? Because the problem is not just the manager. The problem is the team, the whole setup, the coaching staff.
It's an easy scenario to explain. Do you shoot the horse or change the jockey? It's as simple as that. At the moment, we have a 3-legged horse, so I'm shooting the horse. Exactly. So, do you shoot the horse? You can't shoot the thoroughbred, but you change the jockey. You have to change the jockey. It's like management. If you're not succeeding, and I was at a very low level with Chester City, where no money, no chance of getting players in, no chance of players going out, players on very good contracts. And you're trying to get a winning team out of it and trying to get the players to play for you. How can you do that? That is something that is like that is not a brick wall. That is like going into space and not having a spaceship. Because you just have not the faintest idea. What do? You can't rely on your football ability, because your football knowledge and your ability and all your training doesn't come into play. You can't put it into play because I can't tell if you're going to play for me, Dave, or if Wayne's going to turn it on for me, because Wayne's been at the club and you've been at the club, but I come in and all of a sudden you don't want to play for me, but you're on such good wages that you're not moving. So now you say, well, okay, I've got 24 players like United. I have my number one plan would have been, if I'd have been in this situation, I'd have got my starting 11 worked out with the previous. I'd have got my previous 11. I'd have put them together, and I'd have put everybody else around to look. But that starting 11, you have to have consistency in your team picking to get the quality, to get the consistency you want in this top league. Now, the old verbiage of, well, you're going to have a team for Europe, you're going to have a team for the league, you're going to have a team for the FA Cup. When does it stop? When does it? You look at Man City and they can pretty well name the same side. Yeah. But they've got fantastic players around them that can drop into it. That's what I would have done. That I would have got the strongest squad, and that would have been done during your training sessions, looking at them, putting down what you need, putting new things into operation, working with the new techniques that everything has, making players much quicker, their first touch much quicker. All these elements of coaching and being that would have gone into making that team elite. Then you look to see what you want to add to, what you want to bring in. You don't just buy a player because he's up for sale, he's an expensive player. He has to fit in to that, to your mentality, your playing. He has to fit into that. If he doesn't fit into that, then you don't buy him. What we've done is we've got players that, okay, let's fit a system around them. And they've gone in. And games, to me, they're playing as individuals. They're not playing as a team. They're playing individuals.
And that's a great point, Gordon. I'm sorry to cut across, but I have a question for both of you. I'm under the belief, and I'll argue this with anyone, that we have one of the best squads in the Premier League. You know, player for player, man for man, we do.
One of the top talented squads, David.
Yep, and this is going to be my question. My question is, and I'll start with you, Wayne. My question is, we seem to be in the same position that Chelsea were last year with Frank Lampard, in that they had a very, very good squad and they had a manager that just wasn't able to manage world-class players. They brought in Tuchel, and we know what happened there. They're flying in the league. They won the Champions League. My question to you is, we're all disappointed that Ole was released of his duties, but we all know, I personally feel he wasn't up to it at this point. I think he's just got to a point where he just can't get that team over the line. That's why I think that it's very similar to Chelsea and what they went through last year. I'm going to ask both of you the same question. I'll start with you, Wayne. If we do get in a manager of the ability of someone like Tuchel, are we challenging next season? Do you see this team being good enough, and it's just a good coach away from being challenging it for the Premier League and the Champions League?
This exact squad?
Yes.
No, because the midfield is way too poor. It's not proactive enough to challenge for a title. That's the problem all along. We've all known that. I mean, I'm not saying like it might just be one midfielder away who can make McTominay or Fred or Matic better, or Van der Beek better. Van der Beek looked pretty good yesterday. But as it is, that the midfield's nowhere near good enough. And you've got the doubts over the left-hand side of that defence now, which is, and the right-hand side as well. All of the defenders apart from Varane really are up for question at the moment. So yeah, no, it's not good enough to challenge for the league. But we knew that before Ronaldo signed, and that's why this season we weren't really expecting. I mean, Ronaldo, as we've said numerous times on this podcast, he moved the needle, the level of expectation, and that's fine. That's the sword that Solskjaer's lived or died on, and you know he's gone, and that's the expectation. The expectation rose. He was expected to challenge. The squad aren't good enough, Dave. The defenders aren't. Maguire's not good enough. Luke Shaw, I don't know. Something tells me he's still got something in him. Wan-Bissaka's got good defensive qualities, but the confidence is on the floor at the moment. I just think Maguire's not good. He's not a strong enough captain. He may well be with a good partnership built with Varane. The question is, can a better manager make those players better? Yeah, I think that's also fair. But I thought that the ceiling from that squad was second. I don't know what level of second they could be better under a different manager. They could be closer to City. I can't see them being better than City or better than Liverpool because I think they've got better teams. Chelsea probably a better team as well. I do think it's fair to say, because Solskjaer, as we've said, Gordon said it last night, you've said it there, I've said it before, Solskjaer's inexperience and his faith in players that aren't good enough has done for him. We can all see that. He made a lot of erratic selections and erratic substitutions towards the end, gambling on players, bringing on Sancho and Van der Beek at the end of that Atalanta game. You know, so he was obviously losing control of it a little bit there. I mean, what's the ceiling for who comes in? I mean, another manager, if they bring in a midfielder, then I could say the complexion changes, and of course that they could challenge. But it's not so much about, this was the big thing that I had a problem with Mourinho's dismissal, and the big thing that I had now, and I was saying it all summer, and I was saying it all summer 2018, that the challenge isn't about being as good as Manchester City or as good as Liverpool. It is, in a way, Liverpool. It's following that model, but following what Fergie did when Chelsea were better than us. Don't match a team that are better than you. Look to accumulate the points against all the other teams. United had that within their grasp. They could have done that. They could have done it in 2018 when Mourinho finished second, because that said, well, we can finish above the other teams, so we can accumulate those points against the other teams, and that's how we bridge the gap. Didn't do it then. Haven't done it now. And yeah, that's on the managers as well. So yes, theoretically, another manager can come in and bridge that gap and do it. I just don't have the faith that in that squad of players, there's enough to bridge that gap, if you get what I'm saying. The manager, the manager can come in and do it, but they can only get so much blood out of a stone. And as far as this case with this United squad, second for me is their ceiling. I don't know how close a second it is. I just think it is their ceiling.
Gordon, just to recap on the question, My personal belief, Manchester United have a very good squad. I think we're just a good coach away from challenging. Wayne obviously, is not a big fan of Fred. He'll be getting his tattoo removed that he got on his back a couple of years ago. How do you see this team? I mean, if we brought in someone like Ten Hag, there was a great shout here, Mancini in the comment section there. Luis Enrique, are these managers good enough to get a better song out of these players?
It's a good question, because obviously they've got different styles and different ways of playing. Their motivation could be completely different. But getting back to Wayne's question, I think there are a certain amount of players in the squad that are good enough. I think there are a few of those players that need to be pushed on and given the door and shown. I think you start to rebuild it. I would certainly look at the youngsters, because I think they give you the drive. I think they would give you what you wanted. I think they'll give you a plan. And that plan would be to develop these players into being good players. Fergie took 6, 7 of the young players and put them into a squad. And we know who those 6 or 7 players were. And then he built it around your Cantonas, and then your Roy Keane comes from Forest. And so you're looking at a very much a same situation, so to speak, but not as dire as it is now, where you've got veteran players, middle-class players, and players that shouldn't really be looking, that should have been really passed on. They should be sorted out. And I've looked at it, and I've sorted out players that I would immediately cut, guillotine, bomb. Thank you very much. Find yourself a club. Thank you, but you're not the standard of what I'm looking at. And it all comes back to being a manager of saying, right, I'm going to be ruthless. I am in there for one thing and one thing only. And I think people forget it. And we were talking with Wayne last night, results. I want results. And the first thing you do is you go and you say, right, if you think you're in this club because you're a top player, you're wrong. You're in this club because we bought you under the auspice of you being a great player. You're not a great player. You've got to prove to me that you can warrant a position in this team. This team, like Wayne said, at this moment, they're not going to win a carrot, because they might be top dogs at wherever they are, whatever country they play for. That means nothing to me about playing for their country. I am talking about the performance for Man United first. What you do for your club, you get in your country. You get selected for your country. That's the way the game's always gone. But I'm looking at players out there that go through the motions and talk a lot and say a lot and spread it a lot, that, well, we might not be good enough and we've got to do this. Yeah, they are good enough, but they've got to be led the right way. And I was talking to Wayne again, and I said to him, the manager that they select has got to be a no-care, ruthless attitude. And I mean, this is what United need, a shake-up call where I don't give a toss about the board. I don't give a toss about anybody else. I want results, and I know how to get them on the field. And I've got the personnel to get them on the field. But if I keep shuffling them, Dave, like a pack of cards, I don't know what I'm going to get. Yeah. So the first thing I got to do as a manager is to find out my best 11, which would take a little bit of time. You can't just instantly go in and say, right, there's a fried egg. You've got to make sure you prepare. You've got to make sure that it goes out. And this is what people don't understand. It takes a long time. We look at, for instance, Mourinho. 2 guys sitting next to him, still there. 2 guys sitting next to Ole, still there. Are they going for a hat trick? The next one that comes in, are they going to go for a hat trick? Because I tell you what, that's a Rolls Royce, Man United's a Rolls Royce. And at the moment, they're running on a mini engine.
Can I just jump in on the point Gordon said there about, and you mentioned it earlier, I wanted to, you talk about Chelsea and the potential for getting similar short-term success and that sort of control this is one thing that's really concerned me, and people might think I'm defending Mourinho here, but we go back to the summer of 2018 when Mourinho wanted, it was widely accepted that he was trying to sell Pogba and Martial, and Woodward stepped in and blocked that because he wanted those players to stay. I think that set a very dangerous precedent.
I agree with you 100%. 100%. That should have been carried out by Mourinho and not the top people.
Exactly. So what you've said there
through the club, though, Wayne.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But what you've done there is you've undermined the manager. You've said the players are more.
Absolutely.
You've not just undermined the manager. What you've done is you've told those players that the manager really isn't in charge here, and that no matter who comes in,
yes,
he doesn't make those choices. And so changing the manager, like bringing in like a Louis van Gaal, which, you know, Louis van Gaal had, for me personally, the worst football I've ever seen. Yes, but that said, he came into the club right about now with the same situation we have now. And he grabbed those players by the balls and he said, you know what? I'm the boss here now. And he completely took over that dressing room. I think Gordon is bang on that we need a similar manager with that attitude as well. That's going to come in and go, like Tuchel did it at Chelsea. He went in there and he took no crap. He dropped players that were playing well but had a shitty attitude in training. And he dropped them. And he said, he basically came out and he named them in the press and said, if you want to get into this team, you have to prove to me you want to be in this team.
And where does that start? As I spoke, as a manager, I start on a Monday to a Friday to assess what I'm playing on a Saturday, not a Friday player coming in and just turning up and saying, my name is such and such, I demand a position. Nobody, I don't care who they are, demands me to play that player, even if it's Ronaldo. I don't care. You don't play because of your name. You play because your ability at this moment is on song. You're playing well. You deserve that chance. That's where I think Ole didn't have it. I think that he was soft. I think he was, like we said, he was playing the Powers Act, the player act, but the managerial side should have been, hey, listen, I'm the boss. If you don't like it, then out. You find yourself a club and I'll be quite happy to let you go. Because once you start, like Wayne said, if they started that with Mourinho, Mourinho knew for sure that he was losing the reins. Because once you start giving player power and you give the people, the top people, what happens is it falls to pieces straight away. Because why am I trying to buy a player that you don't want me to buy? But I know he'll do us a good job. But you asking me to buy somebody, I don't think we should have bought Sancho. I don't think we should have. I look at what he's done. I look at what he's doing. What he's done is he's come to a club and he's really regressed. Some of the players have regressed. Most of the players have regressed. We're looking at games and they're regressing. Because there's nothing coming from the mainstay. There's three wise people sitting on that bench. And nothing is coming except hands in front of their mouths, trying to hide it when it should. Look at Conte. He'd have been on the sidelines. Look at Fergie. He would have been on the sidelines. You look at the Doc. He would have been on the sidelines. Atkinson would have been on the sidelines. We aren't seeing that. We never saw it. And that to me demonstrates. You saw yesterday 2 managers having a go. Arteta, I'd have grabbed him by the throat if he'd have had a go at any of my players. We don't see that. It's, well, football's become this, this and this. No, football's still football. Football is still, I scored more goals than you. I got the result. Klopp, you could see it in his face yesterday after the game. He just went, yes. Turned around and went, thanks very much, and off. You don't have to be best of mates with the managers. But you
Wayne, sorry, Gordon, I want to just jump in here with Wayne for a second because I want to follow up on something you just said there. Gordon hit the nail on the head. You know, as a manager, you need to be aggressive and you need to be able to tell them who's the boss. If you remember, I think it was after the Everton game, Ole came out and said, we're going to be successful at this club and some of these players won't be here for that success. that to me, gave a signal that Ole wasn't taking any shit from these players, and we're going to start seeing players getting shipped out. We all know why we can't get rid of the likes of Phil Jones and all these players, because the salary's too high. That said, Ole was being very aggressive, as Gordon said. That's what you need to be at a club like Manchester. You need to be very aggressive with these players. But in the past 8 to 10 months, my personal opinion is that has flipped. Ole has become, he's become very, I believe, very soft on these players. He's allowed players to put in really under par performances. And the tip of the iceberg was Jesse Lingard, Manchester United and Jesse Lingard made these kind of, Lingard made a statement through his agent or whoever, the media got it to say that they weren't going to agree a new deal. Less than 2 hours later, Jesse Lingard posts a picture of himself in the West Ham jersey to his Instagram, knowing what that would do. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and this is the only stain I have on his tenure as Manchester United manager, not only put Jesse Lingard in the squad on Saturday, he brought him on. Now, that to me was a damning assessment of Ole over the past 8 to 10 months, and especially in the last couple of months. Why would you allow a player to not only be in your squad, but come on the pitch after that blatant disrespect? Wayne, I'm going to come to you first. I'm going to come to Gordon second. What the hell is that all about? I mean, what has happened to Ole? As Gordon said, need to be aggressive. He was. And all of a sudden, then he turns to putty. And the Lingard thing was just the icing on the cake.
Yeah. Jason makes a good point in the comments about shipping out players in the first summer, and he did. Lukaku, Sanchez, Smalling, Darmian. He was fairly ruthless in the first summer. Herrera went on a free transfer.
And that's the point I'm making, is that initially he was very, very tough on the players.
Yeah, but yeah, completely agree. I go back to the earlier point I made about erratic decisions, as obviously the results and performances have got poorer. He's done what happens to every manager when you see them losing control. They make decisions that you wouldn't expect them to make. What is he doing that for? That kind of thing. He was gambling. He was gambling, and the gambles were failing. The Lingard thing, I really can't explain. The selection things like Fred and McTominay and everything like that. We said it earlier. I think that he had a moment where he just had faith in those players for whatever reason. When he looked at the alternatives. And the alternatives, they were tried. Let's not say that they weren't tried, like your Matiches and the Pogbas in the middle. They were tried, and they were tried in big games. And nearly every time, and not even the big games, they were tried in all kinds of different games. And we were getting outplayed by like West Ham at home with Pogba in the middle of the park and stuff like that. So it was getting embarrassing. That's what he returned to. He retracted to his pragmatic defence and midfield. And, I'm not condoning it now. I think it was the wrong decision. I thought it was pragmatic at the time. I thought it was a making ends meet kind of thing. But we were saying it all along on this podcast, and wherever we've talked about it, we've always said it. He had too much faith in players, and it was going to go one of two ways. Either those players would turn around miraculously and become starting Manchester United legends, or Ole would pay the price because the results wouldn't pick up, and that's what's happened. The Lingard thing, I really don't know, because I feel the same way as you, Dave, on this. I really do. I
can tell you the Lingard situation. Well, Lingard goes away from the club not getting a game, okay, which is fine. Most players will say, listen, I'd rather go out on loan and play regular football than stay at home. That's not a problem. When he went down there, he started to turn around and play his game. This is a player's views. He's gone down there and done very well indeed. Yes, it's not Man United, it's West Ham United. So basically, you're going to go. Nowhere's bigger than Man United. Once you leave Man United, you go down. That's it. End of story. But then what you're going to do then is you're going to go down there. He goes down, has a great, that Moisey's fantastic, comes out with a statement. He's done very well for us, but he's still a Manchester United player. So Ole says, well, we've still got a chance of keeping him. How can you say that, Ole, when you know full well that the guy's playing so well down there that you're not going to play him when he comes back, or be indecisive about if you are going to play him and stir up again? Yes, he's your player. If he's playing well and he's not figured in your plans, which told me he never had a plan, then sell him. Sell him. Let him go. Let him play. Take the money, invest it in somewhere else. And it's the same. And Dave brought up a good point. You got Martial. Sell him. Get rid of him. Sell him. we've not seen anything productive from the guy for 4 or 5 years. So sell him, get what you can. And the new manager, and Ole's been so indecisive on it, he's overlooked situations where he could have attacked it straight away. When Lingard went with that West Ham shirt, he'd just been straight on him straight away. Because I would have pulled him in the next morning and said, listen, if you want away, you get him to talk to me and I'll help you go. Because that tells you whether Jesse comes from Manchester, comes from London, comes from whatever. Jesse has decided that he wants to go. And what happens is your agent is putting in your ear. Well, I've got a good little chat with David Moyes the other day, but he says that he can't do anything, but I can. Because
Gordon, would you have had him in your squad the next day, let alone play?
Can I just comment on that?
Jesse Lingard would have been told by me straight out, Jesse, go and put the West Ham shirt on, because I tell you what, your days are over. You know, if you can turn, now that's what I'm talking about, Wayne, that you don't understand about the players. I know the players. I know the mentality has never changed from when I played, before I played, to today's game. If they go, and I've had players, and you talk about the money that they're on, and we talk about everything that they're on. I had a player that I got from Leeds United for Chester. I had to pay, I couldn't afford them. So I made a deal with Andy Ritchie that I would pay half their wages to get these players. So you can work out deals to get rid of these players. There are so many avenues to work out these players, even if they're on good money. So when Jesse comes back, oh yeah, I'm flying on all cylinders. He goes back in the England squad. So Gareth Southgate doesn't play him. Then all of a sudden decides he wants to play him. Jesse Lingard comes in, and all of a sudden he's smiling because he's back. Then all of a sudden he's out of it again. I look at the bench and I look at their faces when they're not playing, and you can see they're just sitting there going through the motions, which they want to be playing. That's been put there because there's a 24-man squad.
Gordon, I don't disagree with the fact that Jesse Lingard wants out, and I don't disagree with the fact that we should find a way to get him out. But Wayne, you wanted to say something there. What I disagree with is the fact that not only was he in the squad, but he actually came on. I mean, Gordon was was voicing his opinion there, and you wanted to interrupt. I mean, what at the point he was talking about Lingard not being in the squad, I mean, what did you want to add to that?
No, because Gordon made a point and he said that he wouldn't have been in the team, like get on your bike. And I just want to say that over the 24 hours between where he posted it on Instagram and when the game happened, I must have spoken to half a dozen people connected with United in various capacities, and they were all appalled. And their message was exactly the same as Gordon's. Don't have him. He shouldn't play for the club again.
You've got to have players, and I agree with you. You have to have players that want to play for the club first. The manager, they've obviously looked at. They've seen. I tell you what, I look at it. I say, I'll tell you what, I could play for him. I could play for Bobby Robson, because what I did, I had first-hand proof of that when I played for England with Bobby Robson on a tour. I knew that type of, and I looked at what Ipswich were playing, and that was a great as well. So players look at that and say, and then you've got players coming back, they come back from injury, and they're being put into the team, and they're expected to save somebody's backside. Well, you can't save a manager's ass if all of a sudden you come back and say, well, you've got to do this for us, or you've got to score, or you've got to be there's no consistency in team picking. There's no consistency in play. And what happens is that it becomes, well, are you in the team? Well, I don't know. I'm on the bench. Well, there's another 8 players on the bench.
I definitely get all that, and I want to just answer Jason's question. If Jesse had a decent start to the season, come off the bench and scored in 2 games, would you not be upset if you don't get a chance? Yes, I would expect players to be upset. Gordon will tell you that players don't want to sit on the bench; they really don't. But the point I'm trying to make is that there's ways of going about this, and putting up that picture when he knew Ole was under so much stress is abysmal.
You've just said a point. You said who would be upset? Who would be upset?
I mean, if you're a player and you're sitting on the bench, you've got to be upset.
Right. You're upset. So what does that tell you as a player? If I come up to you and say, Dave, I've started this player because of such and such, and I'll give you a crack, but at this moment in time, I'm not going to change this winning side and just shove you in there. But if I all of a sudden turn around and say, well, I pulled you off because you did this, and this, you're going to go, whoa. And there's so many scenarios come out of you having a chat. I think those chats have been too nicey. Maybe. I think those chats haven't been to the point. You're not producing it. You can play better than that, and you're not doing your job. That's why such and such. That then what happens is then it starts to sort out your 11 that you can count on. And slowly you start to mold that 11 with other players coming in. But unfortunately, we don't know what the starting 11 has been. We have to wait till the last moment. And then we say, well, hold on a minute. Wow, hold on a sec. Are you playing tomorrow? Because this is me on United. Well, I'm in the starting 11. I said, yeah. And I'd do this. Yes. And I'd want to keep my place. And then you get now, it's like, well, okay, fine. Well, he's not doing it after 65 minutes. Let's change him. Once you start changing and the consistency goes, then the team starts to fall to pieces. And then you're looking around saying, I tell you what, he's not doing it. And they have a go at each other. Secretly, and I can tell you this, boys, secretly you have a go at each other without it coming out in the open. Then the manager says, well, we had a bad result. He has to go away. He has to come on a Monday. He has to look at that squad. But if there's no, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to work on this for this week. And we're going to go out with this team. There's nothing. I can't see nothing. I look, how many times have we been sitting here and talking, even if it's private, when's he gonna play? Why is he playing that player? Where's he playing that player? Why has he got him in the team?
Gordon, I do have a question for you though, for you.
Yeah, go on.
You played in what I deem as probably the greatest eras to follow Manchester United, even though in the 90s, 2000 we won so much, the 70s and 80s, different players, different teams. How would the dressing room, because you mentioned there that players talk off to the side outside of the manager. How would you or your teams that you played in, especially at Manchester United, have handled a situation in what like Jesse Lingard did yesterday? I know we didn't have social media back then, but if it had gone to the newspapers and said, hey, this, here's me, take a picture of me in a different jersey, how would that have been handled in that dressing room? Because here's the problem, I think, today. We don't have any leaders in that dressing room.
No. That's not.
How would that have been handled in the 70s team that you played in at Manchester United?
They would have been told, you're, excuse my French, you're fucking out of order. You're out of order. And the boys would not have put their trust in him. If you want to go, go. But don't do it with us. Don't take us down that road. You want to go, we wish you the very best. And it did happen. If you remember rightly, Jerry Daly, fabulous player for Man United, done absolutely super. Everybody scratched their heads. But Tommy Docherty turned around and said, right, it's gone. So something between them two happened, but it didn't affect the way that we were as a team because, hey, we knew we had to go out and play regardless of who was with us. We knew we had to go out and perform no matter who was with us or against us. So what you do is you get that camaraderie to go out. There is no camaraderie in that team. They're all out for themselves. They're all playing, and they don't play because of the shirt. They play because they got very good contracts. They get a very good living. And it's like, well, I've got a Man United shirt on. I'm a Man United player. What a load of bullshit. And that frustrates me.
Yeah, no, brilliant from Gordon. I completely.
One last thing before you jump in, Wayne. Gordon, just to follow on from that comment about the team, Harry Maguire is getting an awful lot of slack for as being the captain of Manchester United. Two questions. One, is he the right man? And if not, in that current squad, and you have to pick somebody because I know what you're going to say, in that current squad, who is the best equipped to be the captain of Manchester United?
David De Gea. I've given it to him because you can't go no further back than him. You can't. So David De Gea has got to be the man that can see everything on that field, and he's the one that should have the voice, because we had Martin Buchan. Now, the difference between Martin Buchan and Harry Maguire is Bucko knew what he could do, and he done it extremely well, first class. Harry is now thinking that he's a world-class player. Unfortunately, he's not, because his first touch and his ability to think that he can dribble out from defence, which we've seen, has put us in shit street too many times, and other players are having to come and bail us out. And if you look at it, we've had the likes of Motasaka that comes in and at the last moment makes a diving tackle because of mistakes that have been made. I think when we bought Harry Maguire, that expensive central defender, I didn't warrant the money that they paid for him, but he was the only thing available because Virgil van Dijk had gone to Liverpool, but there was nothing. And I've looked around for centre halves that possibly could go in. Smalling's gone. You've got Jones sitting on the sidelines. That was a comedy at times with his football. That the ability that they have in mastering the ball is not there. So what Martin Buchan was first class at being able to do everything so simple and time everything to perfection when he was tackling, when he was talking, and he's not afraid. I remember I got a clip round the ear for not getting back, not because of anything else, but not picking up my man. Roy Keane's done it. Roy Keane's gone up to people and done that. There isn't that fire. There isn't that. It's all being nice. Yesterday, we saw Bruno going up to the fans and saying, don't blame him, blame us. It's not a cheerleading session. You're out against the team that need the points, and you've given them 4 goals. Don't look at anybody else. And so when does that start? That starts Monday to Friday. Bobby Charlton made a great one. He said, your work is from Monday to Friday, and your fun starts on Saturday when you can go out and play what you've done during the week. And we've seen it. But hold on a sec. I scratched my head to say, who are you going to go out with on Saturday? I've got Jesse Lingard wants to play, but you haven't played him. He wants to play, but you haven't played him. You played, I don't know, Fred, for argument's sake, or Matic. I'm going, hold on a minute. Is this for real? Am I watching this for real? Van der Beek's sitting there. Van der Beek is chomping at the bit. Wants to play for Man United. People are saying he should go. He wants to give it a go. He wants to get a game. He wants to play. There are players in that midfield that should be gone and not get a place. But are they going to get a place? They wouldn't with Ole, because it was the old pals act. And it comes to that point you guys made earlier about, is he really in control? And I turn around and I say, no, he's not really in control. But the next person that comes in has got to be somebody like a Zidane, like the Ajax manager, that comes in and says, I'm in, you're going to do it my way. I am going for this. If you don't like it, this is the way the ship's going. The doc said exactly that. If you don't like it, knock on my door, he said, and I'll make it quite happily. I'll move you on. And he did it. And Ron Atkinson did it. And Alex Ferguson did it. Alex Ferguson was the nicest person in the world. So don't anybody say, oh, he was, but no, he wasn't. He was vicious. And he did it in the football way. And we've been used to it. People say, don't argue with Fergie, he'll have you out. Yap Stam, best centre half I've seen. gone. From Veron, gone. And he's had some really top players. But
Yeah.
hey, but who was the voice? Who made that decision? You had
Gordon, I got a final question for you. I think all the points that you're saying are very valid, and we always love to get someone like yourself with your background onto that, because you are right. We as supporters and fans, we think we know everything. We just don't know what's going on in the background, and your insight is always phenomenal. I do have a question though, based off that. What's next for Manchester United? How do we move forward from this?
They put themselves in such a roundabout that they don't know which road to take. They've got themselves in a situation which should have been sorted out 2 or 3 weeks ago. Once they look and see that the ship is not going again, the ship is stalling, they should have pulled the reins in and said, right, we've got to make a change. We've got to look. Now, just pulling somebody in for the sake of pulling something in, I don't agree with. Just as an interim, these guys are they baffle me. They really do. As I said earlier, you've got 2 of them sitting by the side of Mourinho. He's gone. You've got 2 of them sitting by Ole. He's gone. You've got 2 of them going to be sitting next to the new man unless the new man comes in. It's like all us former players that have been managers and in the game turn around and say one thing. When we go into a club, we have a clean sweep. You sweep the lot out. Why? Because now you can start with a fresh floor. But what's going to happen here? Now, they're going to bring somebody in. They're going to want more money. And they're in talks at this moment with Zidane, and they're in talks with trying to get him. I don't want you. I don't want you. Now, all of a sudden, what's going to happen? Is he going to want Pogba? Is Pogba going to turn around and decide to play? Then all of a sudden, you're going to get this. Well, he's kept Pogba in it. Well, so now you've got to buy into the new manager's way of thinking. If his thinking, and I would, first thing I'd go in, say the only thing I'm looking at is results. If you don't want to be on this boat, then I'll make way for you to get out. But I will certainly not stop. This ship is going back to the top again. May take a little bit of time, but supporters, United supporters and fans will always follow you if you play that type of football that you are trying to achieve to get there. If you don't, they'll accept a loss. If you put bang effort.
Wayne, we all know what Manchester United need to do. We've heard it from a professional coach and a professional manager, a professional footballer, of what we should, or where we should be going. As the fan on the terraces, we all know what needs to happen. So I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit with that question with you. What do you think will happen versus what? Because Gordon has given us an insight of where we should go. Now reality, because we're dealing with a shit show here. We're dealing with a circus. What's going to happen over the next 3 to 6 months, do you believe, at Manchester United?
I have no confidence whatsoever that what they know what they're doing, or that they're going to get it right. I think they're going to get an interim appointment. Yeah, not that guy for a start. No. He's already gone, Conte. I would. They'll go for an interim. Obviously, I think they'll probably get some. They'll allow this procession of Fletcher and Carrick to do the next game or two. I have no idea. It's such a random exercise at the moment who the interim person is going to be. But I think the exact same pattern is going to follow. That person will come in, they'll have some good results. There'll be the temptation to go with them. The reason why they're doing it is obvious. I said it right at the start of this podcast, and it's been said a couple of times in these comments as well on the podcast from the people watching. They don't want to pay to get a manager out of the contracts. They don't want to pay money for the rest of the season. So they're not going to bring in a manager who is going to... It's exactly the same pattern as what happened with Ole. They brought him in into an existing staff structure. Like we've already talked about McKenna and Carrick. He wasn't... Because he was an interim, he can't fire those people. He couldn't buy any players because he was an interim manager. So he was expected to steady the ship while the club looked for a replacement. exactly the same thing is going to happen now. And then maybe that manager will get a bit of a good wind behind him, and then they'll be talking about
giving him some money.
Exactly, or giving him the contract, because he's there in on the cheap, and he'll have established relationships with the people around him, so there don't have to be any dramatic overhauls in terms of squad or in terms of staff structure on the inside. That's what's going to happen. Because they don't have a long-term plan, Dave. They've already admitted that they don't have a long-term plan. So their long-term plan is going to be the short-term plan, whoever they get in the short term. They might have an idea of, we want to get Pochettino. The horrendous thing that I can see happening, I can definitely see it happening, is something like Pochettino. They get in. I don't know. I'm not saying this is going to happen, so don't have any nightmares, anyone. They're getting Sam Allardyce as interim manager, right? Or they're getting Johnny Manager comes in 2 weeks. Johnny Manager's having a great time. He wins a couple of games. The players are putting a shift in. Everyone's saying good things. Johnny Manager gets, he's got the. There we go.
We actually had that comment earlier in the section. I was waiting for the moment to bring it up for Sam.
You planned that, Dave.
Hey, Sam. You can't get hired, mate. You tell results before they've even happened.
Yeah, yeah. So the Johnny Manager comes in. He's having a great time. The players are on a high. They say, "All right, Johnny's going to stay until the end of the season." So that's where he is. March comes around. Pochettino gets sacked from Paris, but they don't want to upset Johnny Manager. So Pochettino probably goes to Spurs where they've sacked Conte, or they go somewhere else. Or whoever that manager is, they're going to miss the boat on who else, they're looking at, because they haven't speculated to try and get that manager out of the contract that they're in. They should have spent this month looking at the manager that they wanted to come in. How have they spent a full month, and not come to a conclusion?
I'll tell you what, I'll go in there and I'll bring in 4 of the top coaches, top level, and make it my team.
I'd have confidence in you, Gordon. I really would.
Top defender, top midfielder, and a top forward, and put them together as a team that we could go out and give to the players. And they knew where we were coming from, because that is the only thing that's going to shake them up. Somebody that has got it. And I'm not saying who, but I tell you what, know what it is to go out with that shirt on, or with a football shirt on, and be a professional footballer. Give them their views every day. Give them their views. The defender, best defender, okay. Whoever you get, but the best defender and the best midfielder. And he joins my coaching staff, and we sit there and we talk about all the players, because players don't hide feelings about other players if they're not producing. They will never hide feelings. They will never say, well, you're a great player. No, you're shit. You've been playing like shit for the last 2 weeks, and you're not going to get. So now what you're doing is you're putting it together. Say, I tell you what, this kid's making a great result. And 3 of you sit there and say, I tell you what, he's a player that we could really use. Now you've got a whole bunch of experience. And now what you do, and now what I would do, put that into training systems, put that into sessions. That's the plan. And then start working. And then all of a sudden, like Reese has just said here, like Robson, yep, Stan. Robson is an ambassador. So whether you could have him in as a coach anymore, no. Yep, Stan, yes. Roy Keane, yes.
There'd be no legs left.
Pardon?
No one would have any legs left. Oh, maybe that's for the best.
Listen, I tell you what, hey, Wayne, if I got results, I don't care, because
I wouldn't.
What are you looking at? You're looking for results, and you're looking to challenge the top teams. You ain't going to challenge him with a bag of marshmallows. I ain't going to challenge anybody if I go in there with a softie. I've got to have players that are going to go out there. But looking at it, that is your coaching system. That is looking at it. I ain't looking at your badges. I ain't looking at everything you've got. I'm looking at what you are as a person. So the management side of it has got to be constructed as much as the football, the team. You've got to construct a great management team to be a great team and keep searching for that. So then you've got players that are looking. You've got players that say, tell you what, this kid, and once all 3 or 4 of you sit down, you now talk about it. You now come to a conclusion. This is a kid that could do well for us. Jimmy Murphy was spot on with everything he looked at. And everybody says, tell you what, he made decisions. Get this kid before somebody else does. That's a decisive decision that's been made. But I tell you what, hey, at this moment in time, we don't know where they're going. We don't know where we are. We have not the faintest idea. We don't know who we're playing. So if we don't know, how do the players know?
Gordon, would you, we've known each other a long time now. Would you have me part of your management team? I mean, no. I could be the foodie in the canteen.
No, I would tell you definitely to change the curtains. I can't believe it. No. I tell you what. Yeah, you could be my. You could. What could I give you, Dave?
Be nice now, Gordon. Be nice.
Hold on. Are you good with a broom?
I'm not too bad. I'll be a good sweeper.
I tell you what, you're a great sweeper, Dave. I've got the North Stand and the Stretford end. Do that in a week, But when you think about it, I mean, we're becoming light-hearted because of the situation, and I'm light-hearted about it. But it's the same story as I'm on the sidelines. If I step over that line, I ain't taking you. There's no prisoners. I'm out there to do my business. I don't think that is happening at this moment in time. I don't think they realize that the business is on the field. What you do on the field, you get off the field. If you know what I mean, with your sponsors and everything else and everything that they got today. If you didn't do it on the field, don't expect to get all this promotional stuff off the field.
All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up now because Gordon, I know you have a coaching session to get to, but I have one final question from Wayne, from one of our listeners, and it's kind of like it's not to do with the show, but it's to do with Wayne himself. So I had a question for Wayne. Apologies, gentlemen. Wayne, do you have any new books coming out? Watched the Georgie doc, and you did a fantastic job on it. 100% agree with all that. Wayne, any major announcements? But what are you working on right now?
I can't. There's a couple of things that are coming out that very soon, actually, that I can't really talk about at the moment, but they'll be announced soon. And
FBI stuff.
No, it's not that. It's the publisher announces it, so I can't do that. We have ways and means about doing these things, Gordon. You remember?
I know. I'm renewing the Beano.
God. At least I'm having
a new book that United are bringing out. It's called Shoot.
Yeah, well, if only they would.
So, is there anything you're working on right now that you've been talking about on social media that you can go into a little bit more about?
Yeah, I can. Thanks, first of all, for the compliment about the George Best film. Obviously, massive honour and privilege to do that and the book. If you enjoy that, if you are subscribing to BT Sport, by the way, Reece says a film on tonight at 12:30. If you can put that on your record, that's too good to go down and actually work with Gordy on that. That's the film about United's relegation. If the turbulent times at United at the moment aren't enough for you, then you can go back in time and enjoy.
That was great. I recommend that it's too good to go down. I mean, really fantastic. So I have my autobiography that Wayne has done. So what Wayne has worked on, and what Wayne spoke for me as me and not himself, which is a very big compliment to him, because don't forget, I come from London, he comes from Manchester, and sometimes when you get somebody talking about somebody, the words don't come down too well. But Wayne got everything spot on and spoke like me, and basically, he done a fantastic job and put into that, Merlin, great. The only thing I can't do is I can't give these managers my wand. They ain't getting it. It's going. Harry Potter borrowed it. So I want it back.
The one thing Let me have one. Oh, thank you, Gordon. It obviously means a lot to me. That experience of working with you is still one of the highlights of my life.
Funny.
I loved
It's
it.
funny.
The one thing I can talk about that I've been working on. Oh, two things. I mean, Duncan Edwards' biography, authorised by his family, and that's going to be hopefully next year. So really looking forward to that. I've talked to a lot of people. There's going to be so much information there that people don't know about him, and because it's Duncan Edwards, like George, such a special, sensitive person in United's history. It's been a real pleasure to work on that. So that's going to be out next year. But one of Gordon's favourite teammates, Sammy McElroy, I've been working with him for the past 7 months as well. And that book is coming out in March. The Last Busby Babe. Oh my God, what a story! From when I worked with Brian Greenough, and the first three people I contacted to help me to put things forward for Brian's book were Gordon, Tommy Dock, and Sammy McElroy. And my ambition was to work with all three of them. And thankfully, Gordon was the first. Tommy was the next.
No, wasn't it Brian first?
No, I'm saying after Brian. So when I talked to Brian, I talked to you guys for like the forwards and the.
Isn't it funny that certain former United players like myself and Sammy and Brian, we didn't have to go out to dinner every night and be the best friends to be able to perform on a field. Yeah. We went out there because of the love for what we wanted to do and win. And basically, it followed that because Brian recommended me. I recommended other people that you've written books for, Wayne. Yeah. And it's just, you get to trust people. And I think looking at it and everything settling down, I don't think there's any trust left. Yeah. And it's very hard to say that the trust has gone out of the game. It's like when a chairman says, you trust me, look for a job. Yeah. Look for a job because it doesn't exist. It doesn't.
Well, that is the poison chalice, isn't it? When a board comes out nowadays and said, we back the manager 100%, you know that he has 2 weeks of a job left. That's the biggest thing.
I mean, that's the famous dock line, wasn't it, with Jim Gregory for QPR? When Jim called him in, and he's sitting there with a cigar, and he said, Doc, he says, I think I'm going to call it a day. And Doc says, why, Mr. Chairman? I think you're doing a great job. No, he says, it's you're sacked. So, so that is the football that I mean, you don't know who to talk to and who to trust in today's football because it's just completely changed. Yeah. So when we do tell the truth, people wonder if you are telling the truth.
Gordon, I want to end this. I want to end the show on a happy note. I got a question here from you. Final question from myself is from Reese. If that's all right for Gordon, what is your favourite moment from playing for Manchester United? You always look back on with a smile or feel proud. Now, Gordon, you can't include me in this. No. That's being biased. So any other great moment that will put a smile on people, because you and I and Wayne, we talk offline, and some of your stories we can't talk about on here. And you always have some phenomenal stories. This is a great way to end this podcast because it's been doom and gloom. And Gordon, you're always good for the story. So whether it's a football moment, whether it's a moment from traveling with one of your teams, what can we end it with?
It was a football story. Because when I was the proudest moment, I think, was when I put the number 11 on, and it was a new kit in the FA Cup final, and it didn't matter which one it was, but it was the first one. And United, for me, the greatest moments was United coming into the second division when I was at Millwall. To them winning that second division and being absolutely phenomenal. To me, joining them was the proudest moment that I didn't realise I was joining, because Tottenham and Arsenal were in for me and I thought I'd be staying in London. And I tell you what, I'd never been further than a Watford gap because I thought it was funny land. So basically what I looked at was was I think that game when I put that number 11 shirt on, they come back. They were back at top. They were challenging, and we were at Southampton, and it wasn't the game. It was the moment I walked out of the tunnel at Wembley, and there was 100,000 people, and they were banners and everything, and it was the hairs rose up. It was the thrill. It was the
old Wembley.
It was the Wembley. It will never be old. It'll always be the same. And the Wembley was in front of us, and you're going out there, and you're saying to yourself, "I'm going to play in this. They're here to watch me play," And then you're looking up, trying to find where your family are. And then you meet the dignitaries that can't see why they put a carpet out there, because the grass was that good. They could have walked on that, but it was fantastic. It was just absolutely. I mean, and then after the game, I put my arm around Brian because he was in tears because we wanted it so much, and I think that really told us. And then going back into the changing rooms that evening. We went for our party because it was but we knew that Samat was there, everybody was there, and we were sitting there, and we said, listen, whatever the situation is, we're going to come back again. And I think that was it when Jerry sang the Irish song, "Though I Was a Boxer with a Fighter." But he sang that. I did my Norman Wisdom. We had a laugh. We got back on the train and we come back north. When we won it, it was the biggest, loveliest experience coming back to Manchester to give them something that they hadn't seen from 68.
63, the FA Cup.
Yeah, and it was just something that was, and if you look at that, from then on, United have always been in the trophies. And I think that is the most fantastic moment. And I got to say to this, boys, but I even asked the Queen, why are you wearing your glove? Because they shake your hands. And I think that was the first time and the only time she went to the FA Cup final.
She had riffraff asking her questions.
And then all of a sudden, and I'm going, whoa. And then the saddest moment was my dad watched me at Southampton. But the following year, he said, I'm not coming when we beat Liverpool. He said, I'm not coming because I'm bad luck. And he sat at home in his cardigan and watched us pick up the FA Cup. And I went back home and I said, here, Dad. And I showed him everything. Oh, is that what we was playing for, that thing? And I went, thanks, Dad. So
put the kettle on.
Put the kettle on and make another cup of tea. And that's the honest truth. That's the proudest moment. And obviously putting us into it. Derby, the semi-final.
Yeah.
I mean, I was lucky, Dave, to score.
The other one I want you to just tell people that are listening in on real quickly is that we talk about nowadays, and it's come up in the comments there about, the vast amount of money that players are on, and that's one of the reasons they don't really show any care. You told me the story about when you signed for Manchester United. You went, you got off the train, you were brought there, you went up into the office, you had your discussion about signing, and then you came back downstairs, and then something came into your head, and you had to go back upstairs. Can you tell that story?
Well, as you was talking about that, I was reliving that, getting off the train, boots underneath my arm, right, and my X-rays, and Gordon Clayton, great Gordon Clayton, picked me up in the docks Mercedes and takes me to the United Stadium, Old Trafford, with these massive, great oak doors.
Yeah.
And inside was marble all the way up and going in. So I go in there and he says, and I get in the door and there's Louis Edwards on the right. There's Jimmy, TD in the middle. There was Tommy Cavana. There was Frank Blunstone and Jimmy Murphy. So and I'm sitting there, and I'm just a 18, 19-year-old kid from London sitting there. And I always remember I kept my boots and I put my boots down and they went, right, son. So I went, Okay. And they talked and talked, and they said, we've been looking, you're the final piece of the jigsaw. We're looking for you and everything else. And behind, I can see these fantastic photos of the legends and the players. And I'm going, and I'm underneath my breath, I'm going, holy shit. I'm going to wear one of them shirts. And I'm really deep in it. And they said, well, what you're doing is you're going to stay tonight because we're playing Man City. And we want you to come with us. And I went, and he said, we'll put you up in the Piccadilly Hotel and, don't worry about a thing. So I said, well, I tell you what, do you mind if I phone my wife to tell me? So I phoned my wife and told her. And I went, oh, fantastic. They went, well, here's the contract, son. I went, oh, okay. And he said, now you're a Man United player. And I shook his hand. And Louis Edwards went, right. And I knew he knew. He thought I was a cocky cockney, but I wasn't. I just knew what he was. They told me what he was and everything else, and I went, oh. So I went, okay. And then Jimmy Murphy went, son. He said, you're gonna be great for us. And then Sir Matt was there, and Sir Matt said, it's an absolute pleasure. He said, we've watched you play, and I thought, okay. Frank Blunstone, a great left winger and he went at Chelsea, and he went, he said, you're just what we're looking for. And then Tommy Cavana, as he normally does, trade for and I went, oh, great, Cat. And I went, oh, great. And I went, who's that? And then it's Tommy Cavana. And I went, oh. So then I got up and I went, thank you very much. He said, Gordon will take you to the hotel, pick you up about 4:30. We're off to Main Road, okay? Great. Go outside. And I said, Gordon, I forgot something. Oh, right. Back up the old stairs, the old door with the manager on the outside of it, knocking on the door. I said, walked out and I said, and of course they're sitting there, cigars are out, champagne's been popped, and I'm going, what is somebody won something? Then he went, and Tommy Doc turned around and they were sitting there and they were going, yeah, that's great. What? And all of a sudden, I said, excuse me. I said, sorry to interrupt you. I said, I want to ask you a question. And he said, what's that? I said, can you tell me how much I'm going to earn? And he just said, don't worry, son. We'll look after you.
So through that whole thing, that your thought wasn't on what am I going to get paid? It's I'm going to play for this great club. And I remember the time you told me that story, I must have laughed for 20 minutes because it's like in today's world, that's the first and foremost thing that agents talk about. Well, he's interested, but it all depends on what's the money in. Whereas you were, and players of your era were, well, I just want to play. But the fact that you actually left the room, went downstairs, about to get into the car to go, holy shit, I mean, I don't even know what I'm going to be earning here. Let me go back up and ask that question.
That's it. I never had an agent. I mean, I was on me Jack Jones. I was on me lonesome. And you go in there and I left, don't forget, I'd left Millwall the night before a semi-pro game, I think at Enfield, where the field was slopey, getting ready for the FA Cup third round in a muddy field. And the manager's saying, listen, we've got to bring you off. So I go off at half time and Gordon Jago says, he says, I'm not putting you on the second half. I said, why's that? He said, we've had a bid from Manchester United for you and the bank have told us to sell you. And I went, oh, all right. I said, well, Tottenham are up. And he went, you're going to Manchester United. I'll get the boots and everything. It said, you okay with that? And I went, yeah. Where? Yeah, man. Are you for real? I thought it was like something like Telford United or something like that. Man United? He said, yeah, they've been watching you and everything else. And I went, okay, because I'd heard through the grapevine that Arsenal had been watching and Tottenham had been watching, but I went up there and it was like, it wasn't the happiest Londoner. It was a different world when you go into Old Trafford, even now with all the new business and everything else. I don't look at the fields, at the stands. I know they're there. I look at the grass. when I sit there, I see all the ghosts of the players before that have played there, and the great memories and everything else. And then I get up and that's it. I'm happy. And I do that even now when I go back each summer. I go there.
Gordon, if they had have brought you downstairs and brought you onto the pitch and asked you to play the piano like you did with Sanchez, would you have done that?
Yeah, but I needed a lot of keys.
With that, Gordon, I want to thank you very much for coming on. As always, your insight is truly amazing. We're privileged to have you as a friend of the show. Wayne, I know this isn't your most favorite thing to do at times, but I'm really happy that you came on. In regard to coming on and talking, not negative about Manchester United, but just, we always want to talk happily about Manchester United. So I appreciate you coming on. I know it takes a lot out of you in regard to the things that are going on with Manchester United. Look at this with most of us supporters. Guys, if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Talk of the Devils. We're on all audio platforms. We appreciate everyone that comes on and asks questions. We do this for the love of Manchester United. That's all we do it for. Gordon does it for the love of Manchester United. He does it for the love of football. He's always a great guy to have on the show. So Gordon, again, we appreciate it. Wayne, big kudos for coming on, as I said, and we wish you all the best in your upcoming book with Sammy McElroy. Yep, sorry, Gordon.
So can I just say something? For all the supporters and fans of Man United, and you guys have got the biggest hearts for the club, I just want to let you know that things will get better. It's just patience has got to be a virtue at this moment. And I think you guys show it. All the supporters show it. Whether your opinion's good or bad, it doesn't matter. It shows me as a former player that you care about a club that you love. And I think that with what you've done and what is trying to be achieved is phenomenal. It's a big mountain to climb.
Yeah.
But I think that if you carry on climbing it and carrying on doing your shows and doing things to let people, then I think that basically you will live through it and you will see better days. And I just wish you every success in what you're doing. And Wayne, your books will be great, mate. I mean, you'll always be my number one. And you're not sitting in the front of the car on my journey from Cleveland to Florida. Okay? Just remember that. You guys are great. Okay. You take care.
I love you.
Gordon, as always, thank you very much. Wayne, as always, thank you very much. Guys, everyone that tuned in, like I said, ask questions. We're truly humbled by this and we really appreciate it. We have numerous other podcasts that we do throughout the week. Wayne does one with former Manchester United player Paul Parker on a Monday. We've got Keane who does it with Lee Lawrence and Phil Marsh every Friday evening. So please tune into those as well. Subscribe. We are actually the only podcast out there that is solely based around former Manchester United players. So we are pretty unique in that, and we like to get their perspective because it's easy for me and Wayne to come on here and talk from a fan's perspective, but we truly appreciate the former players coming on because they do see it differently. They really do see it and they educate us every time they come on. There's always something in there that educates us in regard to, because we're attached to the club emotionally. We really are, as Gordon pointed out there. We let the emotions get it. Professional footballers see the game emotionally as well, but they also see it a little bit differently because they've worked within the club, and we all feel that we know how a club works. But having players like Gordon and Scott on and Phil and Lee and Paul Parker, at times it brings us back down to earth a little bit to say, okay, take the emotion out of it. This is what really goes on behind the scenes. And, Gordon with his story there about how to sign his contract and all, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, that just doesn't happen nowadays, and we kind of miss that. But, it's a religion to us. we'll support that club through bad times, through good times. Gordon is right. These things are a cycle. They come around. As much as I hate mentioning their neighbours from down the road, they were the best team in the 80s, Liverpool, and then they went through that period of not being great. We can't deny that at this moment in time they're one of the better teams in the league. It's a cycle. With Manchester United, it's going to be a cycle as well. So again, guys, I appreciate everything. Thank you very much. And like I said, subscribe, tune into the other podcasts. We really appreciate it.